the board. You can never win, try not to begin. That said, please don't come find me. Why don't you people try spending some of your time thinking of something else besides tearing others down? You can never win, get under my skin, can't say you didn't warn me once, and I thank you all for that. You can try to hurt me, but you don't hurt anymore. And I need you all for that. But you can take your opinion and suffer fools of your own. I never wanted life to be someone else's broken mirror, forfeit a reflection of my own. I could never win, why would I begin? But you're welcome to keep drinking that poison. Down, 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 down. And I thank you all for that. You can try to hurt me, but you don't hurt anymore. And I need you all for that. But you can take your opinion and suffer fools of your own. Moving on, moving on, moving on, moving on. And I thank you all for that. You can try to hurt me, but you don't hurt anymore. And I need you all for that. But you can take your opinion and suffer fools of your own. And I thank you all for that. You can try to hurt me, but you don't hurt anymore. And I need you all for that. But you can take your opinion and suffer fools working out for me, yeah. Got no money on my mind, tell my mommy I'm alright. Even laughing at the jokes you tell me. Keep myself inside the lies, leaving tidy all the time. If you ask me, I am fine. Got no money on my mind. Reading patterns like the apples. Meditation through the yoga lessons. Growing greener by the minute. Soon I can't wear any other colors. Bruises covering my walls, but they fall down. Diving deeper in the books that we read blind. Breathing in and breathing out to get smarter. Not working out for me, yeah. Got no money on my mind, tell my mommy I'm alright. Even laughing at the jokes you tell me. Keep myself inside the lies, leaving tidy all the time. If you ask me, I am fine. Got no money on my mind. 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 Tell my mommy I'm alright. Got no money on my mind. Don't you worry about me. If I keep feeling like I'm missing something, don't you worry about me, yeah. Don't you worry about me. Got no money on my mind, tell my mommy I'm alright. Even laughing at the jokes you tell me. Keep myself inside the lies, leaving tidy all the time. If you ask me, I am fine. Got no money on my mind. 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 Tell my mommy I'm alright. Got no money on my mind.
Yo, what's up, everyone? Happy Saturday, Patrick. How are you?
I'm good. I'm great. What about you?
Living the dream. Living the dream. Would you expect anything else?
No.
No.
No, I would not.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for making it this wonderful Saturday. Appreciate all those folks also that haven't changed their time yet, but the U.S. has. So thanks for making it. I'm sure at the end of today's stream, there will be a bunch of people joining going, oh my gosh, I missed it. Sorry. Come by next week. So how was Sequel Bits? You're back from across the pond.
Sorry, you should have came.
I know. It's okay.
No, it was great. It was great to meet people in person, see people in person. I won't try to list everyone that I met for the first time in person, but it was great. It was great, man. It was a little overwhelming at times for me because, you know, I'm somewhat of an introvert, believe it or not. And so it was a struggle at times, but it was, man, I would do it all over again the same way. So it was great.
Yes. Yeah. I wish I could have been there. Kennedy did great. Her team did great at the horse competition. We were freezing in the morning though. It was super cold. It was actually below freezing in the morning. Yeah, like it was really cold. And then I ended up with a sinus cold, so that was great. I had to deal with that. I got worse as the day progressed. So.
I think I teared up twice during our workshop when I was getting ready to start, and at the end of the session I did by myself because it was a little emotional for me. It was a little emotional for me, but it was great though.
So
it was great.
Fernando says you need to manage your fame.
I did not know I had fame.
That's what he uses me for, and I wasn't there, and so he was. It's all good. So, but yes, Patrick and I are both introverts. So believe it or not.
Yeah. I don't know about you.
No, I
don't
am.
Know about you.
Oh, I am. I just fake it better.
Look at Benny's comment. Look at Benny's.
Is that a way of saying Patrick is that is a true statement? That is a true. Just a little bit. He's got to have his.
It's a social butterfly.
He's got to have his blue M&Ms. So. Yes. All right, everyone.
See, Christian. There you go. Christian's right. Christian's out. It was twice. Yeah. It was twice.
Nice.
I almost burst into tears. And yes, LSU lost last night. They did lose. So that's why I have the hat on. I'm in a little mourning. They went out the first round of March Madness. But that's okay. That's all right.
Go Sports.
Go Tigers. Go Tigers. Go Tigers.
All right. If you are new to Guy in a Cube or the live stream in general, put hashtag new in the chat. We always love seeing the new faces. Always great to have new folks joining us. It's always great to share the learning and get some new questions too, new perspectives. I love it. Also, shout out to the members of Guy in a Cube. You all help us do what we do here on Guy in a Cube. It is very much appreciated. If you see folks with the green name or the Guy in a Cube logo next to their name, those are members of Guy in a Cube. So shout out to you. Thank you, everyone. It is what we do. What was your reaction for?
Andy Leonard.
Yeah, Andy's here. It's not the first time.
Andy.
He's been here before. Hello, Andy.
I guess it's been a minute.
Yeah. So members, thank you so much. Hold your questions until the halfway mark. Chatmaster C will give you the go ahead on when to do that. So we will have that on the second half. It is a member only chat on the second half. So everyone can still watch and learn and all that great stuff, but members and moderators only will be able to participate in the chat. Of note, if you do have a burning question and want to get it answered, super chats always take priority the entire stream. Just make sure if you do a super chat, you type in the question. Otherwise, you're just doing a super chat, which is greatly appreciated, but I want to make sure you get the value out of it that you request.
Is the sound okay on my headphones?
Sounds fine to me.
All right. Good.
Sounds good to me. So we got it working today. Yes. All right. Questions. So get your questions in. Be sure to put Q: in front of the question to get it queued up. One time is all you need. Chatmaster C is standing by to get them queued up. If you do end up repeating the question multiple times, we have a 3 strikes rule here on Guy in a Cube. You will get put into a timeout by either Chatmaster C or one of our lovely moderators, except Patrick. Because Patrick doesn't do that. Yes. So please be sure to put Q: in front of the question if you want it in the queue. We don't get to every question during the stream. It just doesn't happen. We get to as many as we can, and then we'll if we don't get to it, come back next time and we'll try again. That's how we roll. All right, before we get into the questions, just checking the new queue here. So Nicholas is new. Kevin Smith says new this morning. I see what you did there, Kevin. I like that. Let's see here. Mattia is new. I hope I got that name right. Pa Beater's got some new glasses. Nice. Any other news? Wow. That's it for the
Vidya Sagar.
Did I miss one?
Did you say? Yeah. VIDYASAGAR.
Don't I see that? Oh, there it is. It's way at the bottom. There it is. I see you. Video. Thank you. That's it. All right. So not so many news this time. That's okay. I'll blame it on the time zone change. All right. Ganesh says he is also new. So welcome everyone. Glad you are here. All right, Patrick, are you ready for the questions?
Let's roll. Roll.
Matthew requested that I ask Kathy Ward's question first, so we shall do that. Also, Matthias, you don't have a question in the queue. What's going on? Hope you're all right. I know you're here. I saw you. All right, Kathy, can you explain what query folding is and why it impacts a native query? That is a good question. That is a good question.
Where's Alex at?
Matthias said he's out of questions.
Where's Alex?
Hey, Alex. Yes, we need some query folding links. Also, we've done videos on this as well. So would you like to take an initial stab at it?
No, go ahead, and I'll
right.
compliment.
So
if I need
query
to compliment.
folding, the concept of query folding is if you think of the steps that you do inside of Power Query. So I'm renaming a column. I'm extracting a value from something. I'm combining things into a new column. Those are all steps inside of Power Query. And what query folding is I call it query squishing. And so what it does is it takes all those steps and puts it into a single statement back to your data source. So that it's more efficient. Yeah, query squishing.
I was hoping you said it.
Right?
Yeah.
So what it does is instead of doing like a bunch of things, maybe multiple SQL statements back to your source to get the different items, and or just doing a big statement to your data source, pulling it all back, and then doing all of that on the Power Query, Power BI side, which is not as efficient. We try to send as much back to the data source as possible in a single statement for all those transformations, just to make it more efficient. So the second part of this question is, how does that impact native query? So by default, when you do a native query, you are pre-submitting this T-SQL statement to be sent to the data source. And what that means is any transformations you do after that point do not get sent back to the data source. So they are now done after the fact. So you have effectively broke query folding at that point. There are some options for certain data sources where you can actually indicate to still use query folding with a native query statement. So like SQL Server does support that. It's not on by default, so you have to go adjust it in the M syntax. But that's where native queries can potentially get you into trouble. And so if you are using a native query, be sure to put all of those transformations in that T-SQL statement. Don't do anything after the fact, because that can vastly hinder your performance from a refresh or query perspective if you're doing something like direct query.
And there's a great 30-day folding challenge that Alex Powers put together. There's a video coming out. I don't know when the video is coming out, but I did record the video, and it's in our queue.
Coming out on Wednesday. Yeah, it's coming out on Wednesday.
Boom. It's coming out Wednesday. I will tell you this: if you want to learn about query folding and learn some tips and tricks on how you can manipulate the SQL that's being generated, that's being sent to the source, you should go through this. It took me the day one challenge. I'm going to be honest with you guys. The day one challenge took me about 30 minutes to figure it out. And so be careful. Be careful. It's a good challenge, but it can be draining a little bit, especially if you're obsessive like me. So. It's good stuff though.
Yes. Yeah. And then I will harness my inner Matthew. I know, Scott, you mentioned it in the chat, but Matthew's maxim is when you're doing data transformations, you should perform those transformations as far upstream as possible and as far downstream as necessary, which means you should maybe not even use native query. You should, I think Paul Turley mentioned, use a view. Do it at the source, right, if you can. Do it as far up as possible. So do it in the source. Try to avoid the native query if we can. And then if we can't do it in the source and we're doing it in Power Query, make sure query folding is being taken advantage of, because if it's not, that's a problem. So, all right, cool.
That was good.
Great question.
That's good.
Great question. Good question. All right, now data study. How much growth you see in Power BI's use of companies and small businesses in last year to right now?
Power BI is taking over the world. It's taking over the world.
Yeah, it was. Power BI's growth continues to grow. In terms of like what relation to like small businesses and one, I don't have a breakdown on that. But just listening to like sessions from like a Runha, or if you think about the keynotes that happen for Power BI and the things they talk about, the growth is clear. Also, if you look at things like the Magic Quadrant from Gartner, it's clear that Microsoft is continuing to innovate and push the boundaries on business intelligence and data analytics. So whether it's Power BI or just other products and services that are available. So, that's continuing to happen year over year. So last year was no exception to that. So yeah, that's about all I can comment on that front. All right. Manrique question here. This is a two-parter. Good morning. Is there a way, maybe like a button, that allows users to re-execute a calculated table in the Power BI service? Oh, it's not a two-parter. There were two separate questions. So
I could think of something that I may be able to do. The only concern about that, right? The only concern about that is if you make this button with Power Automate to try to go refresh your data set or use XMLA endpoint to refresh specific things, if Adam and I are connected to that data set, Adam and I and everybody else in the company is trying to use that data set, and you just say, I'm going to refresh it in the middle of the day while everybody's doing something, I don't know what's going to happen to reporting. I don't know what's going to happen with contention. So you just have to really be careful when you're trying to do things like that. But you probably can. I'm not a proponent. I'm not suggesting that you do that. So maybe, yeah.
Let's take a step back, Patrick.
All right.
What's a calculated table, and how does that relate to Power BI and the data model?
Well, calculated table, right? That's some DAX that you've written to create this table, and it's pulling data from something, or maybe you've hard coded some data, but you've created your own table using DAX, pretty much.
And it's materialized in the model, so it's actually there.
And it's materialized in the model. Yep.
So the only way to update that table is to refresh the data set.
Yeah.
So you have two options: either one, you refresh the whole data set, or you use the XMLA endpoint to refresh just the calculated table.
And so right? Marco's making a good point, though. And this is why I'm saying, why do you need to do that?
Yes.
What are you trying to do?
Yes.
You know,
what did Marco say? So he said you can do that. Yeah, so I just said XMLA endpoint. Yeah, but why do you need that? Calculated tables automatically refresh when other depending tables are updated. Yeah. So what's the timing of it? Yeah. Now, there's a difference if you're doing something like direct query and you have something there, like I don't know what the scenario is. And maybe you have a mixed model where you have an imported calculated table and then you've got other direct query things. Maybe there's some other, I don't know. But to Patrick's point, you need to look at your refresh strategy and what the timing of the data is and all of that.
Why are you updating that calculated table? I bet you that they're trying to do something with that calculated table to change something on the report or change something in the data, like some type of write back or something like that. I'm just curious.
Yeah. So the other thing I would comment on is if you have a calculated table, first off, why do we have a calculated table? Like going back to our previous question of perform it as far upstream as possible. Can we get it in the data source? Can we do it in Power Query? Like, why do we even have the calculated table to begin with? So that may be something to look at.
Yeah, that's a good point. Why? Why do we have a calculated table?
Why? I always ask why. All right, cool. Sandeep. This is a Patrick question. Want to understand how Power BI licensing works. Can you point me to any good video or article, blog posts that explain it well enough? So I did a video. I don't remember when it came out. Did it come out in 2021 or 2020? But it's still pretty relevant. So it was What is Power BI? And I talk about some of the licensing stuff there at a high level. We also have licensing so there is licensing documentation on the Power BI side. Also, for all of you that didn't catch that, anytime I say this is a Patrick question, that's sarcasm. And Patrick knows that. He's like, it's absolutely not my question. So licensing. So the things also with a question like that, how licensing works, usually it's more nuanced than just what are the licensing options, right? Because the licensing options are actually fairly simple. Because you have a free license, you have a pro license, you have a premium per user license, and then you have premium capacity that is purchased at a capacity. That's your licensing options. But the nuance of your question is you're probably wanting to know strategies for how do we maintain that? How do we, assign those? Like there's a lot of things I think that you probably want to know more about with that question. And so that I don't know if the documentation is necessarily going to give you that. So I'd also point you to some of like the adoption framework and some of the implementation guidance documentation that came out recently. Those may also help you get insights into how to do that. Also, the enterprise deployment white paper has a lot of good stuff as well. All right, Alex is on fire with the links. There you go. All right, so Sandeep, hopefully that helps you out.
There's a good question coming up. And before we switch over to member questions, we have to answer this one. Sorry.
Which one?
Keep going. Just keep going. Keep going.
Well, which one is it? Because otherwise I'm not going to get to it.
You get to it.
Who what?
Keep going.
Okay. You're not looking at the queue. I'm looking at the queue. We're not going to get to it. But Mithun, I got to hit the send button. Is it possible to read trends on a map pointing towards a particular location based on data? Trends on a map pointing, but it shows a static trend instead of dynamic based on this. So let me break this down a little bit. So you're saying, so I'm going to go with the end part of this first, based on selection on map. So if you're selecting an item on the map, that's going to equate to a filter of your overall data, right? So that will filter down the data that's there. So if we do a trend, so if you have some DAX calculation that's doing a trend, and we have, let's say we have a line chart or some bar charts or whatever, or a scatter plot. When we select an item on the map, that will filter down the other visuals. And so whatever your calculation is, it should naturally filter those as well. So
I'm not sure.
I mean, from that standpoint, just this may be where you're not. This is just me assuming here. I don't have enough information here to really comment on it, but I would say that maybe you're not completely familiar with how like the filter context works from a DAX perspective. And so by default, when we make a selection on the map, that will filter other visuals and calculations that are there if you've enabled those items, which are enabled by default in Power BI. So so I would think that should just work if you have your calculation that's doing the trend by default. I would need more details to comment.
I wonder, but he's saying, but it shows static trend instead of dynamic based on that.
Well, I think I think he wants to show static instead of dynamic.
Yeah, right. So instead of going what goes with the filter context, instead of what actually is the trend, show something static that I want to put in instead of what actually happens when I do the selection.
Okay. So from that perspective, there are two options, and maybe even a combination of those options. One is to disable the interactions between those visuals. So like the map visual doesn't actually filter down the other visuals. That's one way. The other way is to handle it from a DAX perspective, and you can alter the filtering and whatnot.
Yeah, you can control it. Control it. Yeah.
So yes, I agree with chat. It depends. That's the first one, man. Although I think, in fairness, there were. All right, and everyone just heard Chatmaster C laugh on the live stream. She is now upstairs. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say that for the one previous to
this one. I just wasn't thinking about it. Yeah. So I've got to be more mindful of it. Chat, keep me honest.
And I was like, I'm not going to say anything. If he doesn't say anything, I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything.
All right. So here we go. Oh, that's funny. So Chatmaster C migrated upstairs. So we're doing some remodeling downstairs, and she just wanted to partake in the glory of the upstairs room.
She just wanted to spend more time with you. She just wanted to spend more time with Adam. That's all.
Okay, sure. So I told her, I was like, well, maybe we need to buy a new camera and actually, like have a Chatmaster C cam as well, because now it's just extend a cable over the end of the room.
We can put her in the bottom corner right there.
Yeah, she migrated.
Yes, all the time.
Yes, Paul. She migrated. It was replication. Or no, that's different. Yeah. She migrated. Yeah, from one server to another. All right. Go Paul. Thank you for becoming a member. Very much appreciated. Okay. Mets, you bet. I'm assuming that's a sports reference. What's Microsoft's rationale for having Power BI community require company email rather than allowing LinkedIn ID? I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. So, I'm sorry. I don't know. Patrick, do you know?
Is it DAX or data modeling?
No. I understand the question. I have no insights on that. I also have absolutely no influence on that either.
For having Power BI community require company email rather than allowing.
Yeah, because it requires like the Microsoft
I
account to log in, or a company.
Yeah, I got it.
It's for the login. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, Mattia. Is it possible to define different mobile layouts as a tablet has more space to display information versus a smartphone? I don't think you can. I think there's only one mobile layout for a given
There's
report.
only one mobile layout.
There's only one.
There's only one mobile layout.
Yeah.
There's
So
only
if you do
one
have...
mobile, and it's actually...
Go ahead.
Go.
Go ahead.
No, we just did a great video with Mahel, and there's some phenomenal updates that just happen out for the mobile layout, but that's not one of them. That's not one of them.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. Also, Will just
question.
yes,
Yeah.
Will.
Okay.
Will.
Yeah.
So Will commented. He said, so if you're not familiar, Will is one of the PMs on the product team for Power BI. So he said we're pushing for this. We want to support MSA, which is a Microsoft account, LinkedIn, etc., but have some technical privacy things to work through. So there you go. Thank you, Will. Much appreciated. All right. So Patrick, we're running out. I don't know which.
I forgot what the question was anyway. I completely.
This is why I asked.
I know.
Do you remember who it was from?
I don't.
Was it? Did it have to do with DAX?
Yes. The natural language. DAX.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Vishesh.
Yeah.
Because that was the question that was added to the queue right when you made that comment. So I assumed that was the one.
And I want to make a comment here. So
okay. What are your thoughts on natural language DAX generation? Do we need to learn DAX anymore? Oh, I can just.
All right.
I don't even need Marco on the stream. I can already see his reaction to this.
Marco.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
I'm about to talk about Marco. So.
Well, wait. Before you do that, it depends, right?
It does depend. That's a true statement. It's a very true statement. And so I am putting the dollars in the jar. I am putting the dollars in the jar. It's just right here. And so it is a true statement. And so I had the honor of presenting with Muhammad Ali at BITS. And I demoed some really cool things that are coming to Power BI. And then he did the whole thing about natural language DAX generation. And Marco was sitting in the audience on the front row, typical Marco, and he was paying attention intently to everything that Mo did. Mo was doing all this cool stuff. He was typing these things, and it was generating the DAX. It was doing time intelligence and all these things. It was like, this is pretty nice. This is what I'm thinking, you know? And so after the session, I go, so what do you think, Marco? Do we need to, there you go, Laura, it was a great demo. And I'm like, so do we need to learn DAX anymore? And Marco said, I got to go play with this, and I'll let you know. And I was like, what does that mean? And every day I saw Marco after this at BITS. I was like, so what do you think about that natural language DAX? He was like, I got to go play with this. You know? I got to go play with this. So what I assumed, or what I concluded, or, you know, from Marco's comments is go learn DAX. You still have to learn DAX. It'll solve simple things. I watched it, and Mo showed me, tons and tons of demos. You'll have to model this thing up. He said, I do not comment. I will not comment. You have to model it up. You know, your model.
Sorry, could you say that again?
You have to model. Watch. So I've turned everything off except for my watch. You have to your model has to be, you know, well defined. It's kind of like using Q&A. Very similar to using Q&A. So if you wanted to respond certain ways to produce the DAX that you want, you're gonna have to shape this thing up nice. But the Mo's message was, this is just, and this is what I think people missed, and even Marco and I picked up on what the messaging that Mo was putting out was, this is just suggestions. We're just suggesting DAX. We're not telling you this is answering. This is producing the DAX that's going to truly answer the question that you're asking. We're just suggesting some DAX. And Mo's message was on point, and he continuously said that. This is just suggested DAX. We're not telling you this is the answer. We're just suggesting some DAX based on the question that you provided and based on the model that you've presented to us. And it's perfect. And I think if we keep marketing it that way, people will understand you still need to learn DAX. We're giving you some ideas of what the DAX should look like, but you still need to learn DAX. Okay, I'm done.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay. Very nice.
Yes, you need to learn DAX. Yes, you need to learn DAX.
Yes.
It's not that hard. It's just challenging. It's not that hard. It's just challenging.
Yes.
And that's my answer.
Also, Kevin commented that there's a lot of other voices today.
That was the fourth one, right? That was the fourth one.
Well, yeah, if you include
Me,
us.
you, Crystal,
Sure.
and
Yes.
Chat Master.
All right. Let's see here. All right, we got 2 minutes. This is why I had you do it, because there were a bunch of other questions ahead of that.
You should have been there with Marco and
yeah.
his comments. It was great. It was great.
All right. Let's see here. Samuel. Is there an out-of-the-box way to always make date between slicers default to rolling 12, 13 months or any workaround?
It's not a default way. It's not a default way to do it. You can do it in your calendar table and then use it as a filter on that report. I can think of some ways to do it on my calendar table. Add a column that's always selecting those last months. Put it in a filter. I've done videos on this, and then filter it by that. And then go ahead.
So another way you could, like the default, again, to Patrick's point, it's not going to be default, but one strategy you could take is maybe creating a template file that's already got that developed inside of it that people can start with and say, hey, use and have education for your report creators that says, hey, this is how you should start with that, if that's the preference that you have. So template file may help you there.
And then someone, I think it was Johnny, I think it scrolled past, relative date slicer. You could use that too, the last 12, last 13 months. But the rolling, and so, and it just...
Sorry.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. All right. We are at time.
Exactly, Benny.
We are at time.
Benny,
Look at that. Right, all right. Chatmaster C, do you want to do the honors? Although she's a little... she's got her headphones on, so she doesn't actually hear me. She's got a delayed hearing of me. So Chatmaster C has... She said she hears me just fine. Okay.
Oops. She told you. She told you. She told you.
All right. Chatmaster C has cleared the queue. We are going over to member-only chat. So what this means is that members and moderators can continue to participate in the chat, but everyone else will not be able to participate in the chat. You can still continue to watch and learn from all of the questions that will come up now. Also, if you do have a burning question we didn't get to and you really want to get it answered, super chats always take priority. Just be sure to include the question with the super chat. So with that, let's go over and change it to member only. All right, we are there. Cool. So one of the benefits, also Kevin, thank you. Member for 22 months. And he's adding a question. Chatmaster C, can you copy that Kevin's question? Patrick, mute yourself, buddy. Mute yourself. Can you copy that into Teams for me? Because it won't show up in vMix. I don't know why it doesn't do that, but it's weird. Also, I saw Stina from UK was also here for a while as well. She commented on that earlier, so appreciate that. All the longtime members here, very much appreciate your support. So one of the benefits of being at the visitor or producer tier is that you can pre-submit questions, and we do have one today.
About that.
Yeah, you did. So we do have one from Stina in the UK. So let's go with that. And so she said, I've watched several videos around stack column visuals and sorting and got it to work for 2/3 of my visuals. When it's a straight sum, the columns sort in product group order, but when I do a chart for the difference between actual versus planned, that sorts in numeric order, and I cannot figure out why or how to change it. We want to start using this in our departmental weekly meetings and have the groupings in the same order for every chart so that it's helpful and easier to read. So what is going on? Patrick, explain this to us.
This is not simple to explain, my friend. This is not simple to explain. And Adam sent this, he sent it over. He's like, go take a look. If you got time, go take a look at this. And Adam knows I'm a little obsessive. I have a very obsessive personality. But let's go. I got a show. I can't explain. Right, so let's go over to my laptop. She said it was okay to show this. Let's head over to my laptop.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting for, man.
And so, yeah.
All right,
and so
go.
She said we could show this. So take this visual right here, and you can see that it's sorted with the legend: studio, OLS, ILT, on and so forth. And in her question, it was like, if I use a sum for the measure, and so this measure uses, let me see, this uses the total planned revenue. And so if I just use a sum, she was like, it works. It sorts properly. And I'm like, all right.
So the middle chart is the sum, and that's working.
That works perfectly. Okay. Now, if I go here and use the difference, and the difference is just a calculation, it just takes the difference between the two measures, it doesn't work. And so you can see this curriculum is above studio, but it should be way down here between bookstore and IoT. It should be down there somewhere. And I was like, oh. And so I'm going to tell you guys, I spent an hour going with what she said in the email. I was like, oh, why would math cause a break the sort? And then I said, let's do this. Let's go to view, performance analyzer, start recording, and I grabbed the DAX for both of these. And I went over to DAX Studio and I said, let's tinker. Let's take a look at this. So this is the one with the difference on query 1, and then on query 2, this is the one with the sum. Okay?
That's really
and I ran.
tiny.
So well, I don't care about the DAX. I care about the results.
Okay.
I don't care about that. We're not going to dig into the DAX. So if you look at this, the sections on the bar are sorted by product group. And you can see studio, OLS, IoT, curriculum, and bookstore. So this is the one that works. This is the one that uses the sum. Mm-hmm. It works. And if you go down, you can see it's the same. If you go, I promise you, if you go look at the values on the bar chart, whatever that thing is, stacked column chart, if you go look at it, it works. And then if you go to the one that uses difference, it's still the same. You see curriculum is in the second position, and the value for curriculum is in the second position. You're like, all right, it works. But when you head back over to the visual and you look at the visual, it does not work that way. Curriculum is at the top. No matter if I change the sort, ascending, descending, no matter what I do, it stays there. And I showed this to Adam this morning, and he was like, what the French toast? He actually cursed. And so he's like, I don't know why it's doing that. I was like, I don't either. I don't think we have an answer for this, but we have to show this.
Well,
and so I'm not
sure. Go back to DAX Studio.
Yeah.
So what appears to be happening is because there's negative values there. So it's taking the positive value first, and it's basically overriding whatever the sort order was from the DAX perspective. So it looks like the visual is actually doing something extra after the fact.
And I tested it with some entered data, and that's what it looks like. The conclusion is, like, I have some data that's all positive numbers and one with negative numbers, and depending on how I sort, if I sort one way, the negatives are at the top. If I sort the other way, the negatives are at the bottom. But the negatives are always out of order.
Yes. Yeah. And so it just appears the visual is doing something on top of whatever DAX is returning from a value perspective. We can't explain why it's doing that. I'm going to assume that's by design. I don't know why. I mean, like it's doing, meaning that it's doing what it was coded to do. I'm not saying that that's the right thing. I just don't understand why it's doing that. So
Will just commented. They're in the right order. The positive values are going above the 0 line.
Oh, it's because of the access.
It's because of the axis. But if I want to sort it by
that's the
category-
thing. We're sorting it by category, but the axis. So Patrick, what Will's saying is the axis value is actually overriding that sort because that's how it's displaying it.
I see it
so
now.
it can't. It can't mix. Yeah, it can't mix the positive value in between the negatives from an axis perspective.
I got it. Absolutely. Thank you, Will. I got it.
And I'm assuming if we hid the axis values, that wouldn't change it because the axis is technically still there.
It's still there. I got it. That's it. Look, I'm looking at it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Look right here.
Yeah.
Can you see it? Are you sharing the screen? Look right there. Right. No. So there's the axis right there.
Yeah.
And everything is above
sense.
it, no matter what I do.
Sense.
That makes sense. There you go. There you go. Yep. Yeah.
I wonder. So I'm thinking outside the box
Stop
here.
wondering.
So we didn't talk about this before, but could Stina get what she wants using Charticulator?
Oh, maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
But remember, you said let's move the product group to the axis, and then when I move the product group to
Well,
the axis,
that changes the
it broke them
whole.
down.
Yeah, that changes the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, and Will, you're right. Yes, it is respecting the sort order within the positive and negative values.
Yeah. Paul, I was stumped. I was stumped, Paul.
Yeah.
I was stumped.
Interesting.
Paul.
All right, Stina, there you go. We crowdsourced it. Thank you, Will, for apparently stating the obvious that we missed. So we sat here before the stream looking at that, going like, "What the heck is going on?" See, Patrick, like I said, it's by design.
Yes. Yeah. But then you did say, I say, are we presenting this? And you're like, yeah, somebody's going to say something. Let's present this to the,
Yeah. Oh, yes, Matthew, and I know Alex agreed. Yes, I've never seen it that way. I just assumed that's what he meant by positive and negative. I have no idea what the VE is. So that's new to me. That is new to me.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's a non-US thing. Or it's like a deeply like math nerd thing that I am not.
Yeah. Plus VE.
Yes. But I learned something new.
Too, right?
And I love that. I always love learning something new.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, cool. Let's apparently it's a Brit thing or electronics nerds. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I don't know that it's a Brit thing, Will. I think it's more of a math or electronic nerd thing, which is cool. All right, let's start with Kevin's question because I don't know the order of it. So, and I know that's why you were counting your money.
Yes, and I'm sorry, I didn't go on mute. My apologies.
He said, how much is in the It Depends jar and how can we get updates? I know, Kevin, you've been asking for that. I'm not actually tracking it daily. Partly
right
because
now,
I'm
there's
lazy.
67. Well, I do. So we started out with 65. I wrote it down. I started it this morning. It was 65, but I forgot how many I added. And so we added 2 today. So we're up to 67. We're up to 67.
So far.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, cool. There you go. I know he wants a daily tracking of it, or not a daily tracking, but a regular tracking. He wants a number feed is what he wants. So, and I don't have that. So.
We're up to 2.
And Johnny's jumping on that bandwagon. We need a public Power BI report to track it. Yes, sure.
We're up to 2.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's make an Excel.
Chatmaster C will get right on that.
I'm making an Excel, but I only can start as of today.
Oh.
Because I don't know what.
Yep. There's a delay. Yeah, there it is. There's the delayed. Oh, she said totes. Okay. That was sarcasm.
3-12, 2022.
All right.
65.
All right. I'm moving on, Patrick.
Yeah, I got you.
All right, cool. Johnny's got a question. Implicit measures are coming to Excel. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Am I becoming a Power BI snob if I consider explicit measures a better practice?
So
this is a Patrick question.
This is something I got to demonstrate at Bits last week because it's available for us to do some testing. And I will say this, and you guys know I'm candid and honest about the technologies and stuff like that. Yes, I am a Microsoft employee. Everybody knows we're Microsoft employees, but it's cool because you got to think about self-service. You know, when Power BI, people are creating Power BI reports, you know, they bring it in, the implicit measures are there, let's just use them. Why can't they be there when I connect in my Excel? You know, because the world runs on Excel. Sorry, the world runs on Excel as much as we want everybody to use the Power BI. But what I did notice is that when I use the implicit measure compared to an explicit measure, it's kind of slow. It's kind of slow. The implicit measure is kind of slow. It's kind of slow. And I would say, yes, it's cool that it's in Excel, but if you are savvy enough to create some explicit measures, go and create your explicit measures and continue to use your explicit measures.
Don't be lazy.
Don't be lazy, be efficient.
And that's why you need to use the automatic DAX stuff, the AI DAX. Just saying. Just saying. Stina, thank you for the super chat. She said thanks for everyone for the help.
Wait, but
most welcome.
Doubler, Alex just posted a comment. Can you bring that up? I think it's a good feature, but if you're using calc groups and you are Johnny, then it doesn't matter. I think that's a great point. You know, you got to create explicit measures for your calc groups. So,
yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
point,
and that's
Alex.
that's one of the things that I've found with those types of features is there's nuances sometimes with where things work and where they don't, and you need to understand, test all your stuff and make sure that your patterns are actually going to work. And so yeah.
Paul, I answered your question. Paul, I answered your question. I didn't know what it was, but good.
Nice, cool. All right, Eric's got a two-parter. How to define the correct place to stop with Roach's maxim? Ooh, that's a good question. It depends. Working with those from a SQL background, they want to push all logic and calcs to the source. That's not a bad thing. To the point where Power BI is only just returning single values from a table, I feel that this is not the best approach to utilize Power BI strengths, but unsure how to communicate it. Got it. I'll take first stab on this, Patrick, and then you can add in. I agree. Like there are things that are naturally that will work better if we do it in Power BI from a calculation standpoint. So I really look at those things that you're creating a measure on. That can work dynamically based with your data model, and so I think that's where that line is of, do we need to push that back? Yeah. So that to me, that's where my first instinct goes of where the line is. So like if I'm creating a measure that's dynamically adding different measures in my fact table. Like, yes, the base items, the base data should be in the fact table, and those should be in the source, right? So avoid the calculated columns, avoid, if we can avoid doing it in Power Query for transformation stuff, all of that should be in the source, absolutely. But if you're actually creating a measure to perform a calculation that's a business calculation, that's where it depends. And so the challenge there is, like, if we have additive values, like those benefit from being done in Power BI, or can benefit from being done in Power BI as opposed to doing it in the source. Because when you do it in the source, you potentially lose the granularity of certain things depending on what you're doing. And so it gives you more flexibility if we do that on the Power BI side than if we do it at the data source. What do you think?
Oh, no, that's it. You're right.
That's it? Yeah.
That's perfect.
Cool. And I'm sure others may have some thoughts as well, but
yeah, I met people at Bits last week. We don't do any transformations in Power Query besides incremental refresh. That's the only thing we do in Power. Everything else is pushed to the source.
And that's fine. And from an ETL perspective, yes, 100%. Like absolutely do that in the source. Yeah. And Thomas, yeah, I'm saying like those basic values. So like if you have a sales number or things that are additive values, those base values should be in the fact table. Like those should be in the source. So any of the ETL stuff, if you're doing transformation, that should be pushed back to the source. But if you're actually doing calculation expressions, like from a measure perspective, where you're doing additive type functions, those you can perform that from a DAX perspective. And if your model is modeled correctly, that should be very fast and very efficient and give you a lot of flexibility. And that's the power of Power BI. So in terms of how to communicate that, I mean, maybe the way that I did, I'm like, look, Power BI gives you that flexibility and we don't have to worry about granularities or issues there from, you know, for additive values. Maybe have a discussion around that. Oh, look at that. Look at that.
What?
Matthew said it's a good sign that me and him independently reached the same conclusion.
Very good. Very good.
Look at
very
that.
Good. Very good.
Look at that. It makes me feel smart. Okay. All right. Oh,
Super
gosh.
chat. Did you thank Stina for her super chat?
I did thank Stina, and then Christian also.
Wow.
Thanks for being a member for 20 months. That's awesome.
Oh,
And Yee, thank you for the super chat. Awesome. Also,
from Houston. He's from Houston.
Yes, but Yee, I'm going to assume you have a question in the queue, so I'll go grab your question. And just because of the super chat, so thank you for that. He did not. It's fine. You don't need to. I know it's in the queue, so I'm just going to bump that up. He's a member. All right. So Yee's question is showing a measure in the matrix chart for org employee manager parent child hierarchy. It's a two-parter. So the matrix chart should only start from this manager, but not any level above. Oh, this is the RLS thing. Meaning no level 1, level 2, level 3. Whoa, what just happened? Oh, your desktop flashed on me. Have worked on this for a month, could not get the chart right. Please help. So I ran into this with a customer. So what they wanted to exclude levels above that given manager, right? And so say Patrick, hypothetically, that I was your manager. And
Okay.
and maybe you wanted to show, let's hypothetically say that my manager was someone named Mark.
Yeah.
And then you didn't want to show anyone else in that hierarchy above Mark.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? So hypothetically, say Mark's boss was named Jay. We didn't want to see Jay or anyone above Jay. So this is going to be a combination. Honestly, it's going to be it's RLS. You've got to do it from an RLS perspective. But
how would I do it but if I log in, so if Patrick logs in and I want to see Mark down, how could it be RLS?
Because you have a table there that's defining what you can see from a data perspective. I think.
Oh, this is a good one.
Well, so Chris is saying don't do RLS, but do RLS on the visual. I will tell you, you could do this in a measure to exclude things from a visual level filter, as long as you understand it's not security, so they can still get to that above. I'm assuming that Yee is asking this question in the context that they're not allowed to see the above levels, which means you have to do it in RLS.
Oh, look at Paul. Paul said he solved it. Boom. And I like his solution too. He did it in the measure.
Well, okay. I did this a couple of years ago. The trick was to code a measure that only returns values at the right hierarchy level. Yes, I agree. But what I'm saying is if you are requiring that your data where that person cannot see anyone else in the level, right? So you're saying like, look, you're not allowed to see anyone above Mark from a policy perspective. You cannot see that data. You have to do that in RLS. If you do it just from a measure perspective, yeah, you can't. Like the actual DAX is potentially the same. You're just moving it to the RLS region instead of a measure item on there. But yeah, that's a challenge. It could be a performance challenge at that point as well from an RLS perspective, and that's what I ran into before. And to Alex's point, yes, you're probably gonna have to start to do like is blank and checks on, not the is blank, is in scope. So, yep. So that's how you're gonna. It's complicated. It's not simple. So you'll have to kind of test around with it. Be very mindful about performance. Try to make it as simple as possible. So, yep. Cool.
Okay, I gotta think about this.
I like that question. Maybe we'll circle back on it and we'll look at doing a video. I know it is complicated. I actually have a working demo on this. I've done it with a customer. Like we did it.
Okay,
it was not pretty, and it did not perform well. I will say that also. So, yeah. All right, cool. Let's see here. What was time check? Okay, we still got time. So, Jarrell, thank you for the super chat. I don't know if you wanted a question. I don't see a question in the queue. So apologies if you were trying to ask a question with that. Also, Yi did comment. He said, you're right. Not above name showing in the chart. But Yi, the question there was, from an actual data perspective, are you saying that you cannot, like, you're not allowed to show that data above that individual? Right? Because if you're just saying, look, if they see it, it's not a big deal, but for this specific visual, I don't want to show it, then yeah, do it in a measure. And what Chris said, like do it as a visual level filter. That's perfectly fine for that specific visual. But if you're required to not, they cannot see that data regardless of what's going on. That's where you have to use RLS. All right. Alex did a comment. He said, I used a date here to filter my query instead of a between two values to maintain query folding thoughts. Oh boy.
So Alex, it did maintain folding. It absolutely did maintain folding. But what it produced, the T-SQL that it produced, because Patrick used date.year and Alex used between, was a little more efficient, and it appeared that it would use indexes better. And I won't go into all the sargeable comments that I made to you, Mr. Alex. And he was like, oh, here we go, Patrick. It was like, yes. And so it was, yours was much more efficient, and I think it will use an index that I created, and mine will not. Yep. He's always trolling.
So Paw Beater made a comment. I'm going to make an assumption of what that comment means. It says, how are those things different? I'm assuming you're asking how is RLS different from a visual level filter. I'm going to assume that.
I thought you were talking about Alice's comment.
Oh, okay. Well, then I don't know. I don't know what you mean. What are you asking there, Pub Eater? Also, Jarrell, I don't have it in the queue. Can you repost the question and we'll do the question, please? Apologies for that.
Yeah, Pub Eater. So
you said yes, but yes to which? Like we said two different things.
How is it different between you using RLS versus filter?
There you go. That's what I thought it was. And so RLS is enforced as a security on the data model itself, right? So regardless of what query you issue, you can't override that. So it'll always be enforced on the query for your viewers of the data. So if RLS is being implied, then you can't override it. Which means they'll never be able to see that data. As opposed to a visual level filter, you're only filtering that visual. If they were to, like, say, edit the report or build a new report off of the data set, they could show whatever they want. Whereas if RLS is done on the data model, even if they make a new report on that data model, they still can't see that data because RLS is enforced. So,
Alex.
All right. All right. Yeah, that's not going to stop. Yep. All right, cool. Hang on. I want to make sure. Hang on. Let me make sure. I didn't see Jarrell repost.
Jarrell said he put
I don't see it.
I didn't see it.
I don't see any Q colon. I don't see any Q colon. Jarrell, please repost the question with a Q colon in front of it so we can spot it. Because I don't see it. Okay. Yep. All right. Yeah, he's saying can't show that person's name. Yep. RLS is your answer. You got to do RLS. I've seen it. I've seen it. Yeah. Jarrell, please repost the question and please do it quickly too. We got 3 minutes. So Brendan, let's get a good question from Brendan. Here we go. I recently passed the DA100 exam. Excellent. Awesome. Good job. What is your opinion is next logical certification to go after in one's quest for expert status? I have no idea.
Yeah, I have no idea.
In full transparency, and this is at least for me, but I think Patrick and I are kind of in the same mindset there of I honestly don't, like, I understand what certification is there for Power BI. I honestly don't follow certifications myself. I just don't. I've had bad experiences with myself personally in certifications. I suck at taking tests. And so I've just not actively pursued certifications.
Everybody's saying DP 500.
Yeah, that's the new, but that's the new one that's coming out. But I'm saying if you already have the DA 100 though, is it worth getting the DP 500? I don't know. I know there's two that are there. It does depend. I know there's going to be two there. I think one is focused on the visualization or the Power BI stuff, and then there's another that's a Synapse like data things. I don't know which one's which. Alex is saying DP 500 as well. So I know Alex was paying attention to that. So cool, awesome. All right. So we'll do. So Christian, thank you, sir. I don't.
Jarrell's got his question.
Yeah, it didn't get queued because
it's right there.
Because Jordan is not queuing it. Where's
he put the word question?
Yes, hang on.
It's right there.
You saying it's right there is not helping me. I got it though. So Jarrell, connecting to internal ODBC. Okay, so we're using ODBC to connect to some data source. Need to perform a lot of ETL on tables. Appending, etc. is taking forever to load. What can I do to speed up export to Excel? Whoa, wait, what?
Export.
Those are two different things. One does not relate to the other. So the reason I say that is because if you're saying the refresh is taking too long to refresh your data model, there's so many things here. First off, let me back up a second. The answer to your question goes back to Matthew's maxim of perform your data transformations as far upstream as possible and as far downstream as necessary. So if you're doing a lot of that stuff in Power Query, let's see if we can push it back to the data source. I don't know what your data source is. You just said ODBC. ODBC is a driver type. I don't know what the actual data source is. Let's see here. So the other thing here is when we're talking about those transformations, we're talking about refresh. That doesn't have anything to do with the export to Excel because the refresh is processing the data set. When you go to export to Excel from a visual or anything like that, that's done after refresh is already done. So those two are independent of another. And so if your export to Excel is taking a long time, what are we doing there? Like, is it actually, are we exporting a visual to Excel? I'm assuming that's the case because we can't export the whole report to Excel. And so from an individual visual perspective, how fast does that visual go? What is the DAX performance? Things of that nature. It says direct query, also not using Power BI, just Power Query. Well, what? So again, what's the data source? And so if we're doing direct query to a data source, okay, so direct query inherently is probably going to be slow, first off, because your data design is not great. If we're doing a ton of Power Query transformations over direct query, that's a bad day. And the way to speed that up is push it back to the source, get it in the source. That's how you're going to do it. That's the only way you're going to speed that up and simplify it. Like you're too complex, but you are using Power BI if you're exporting to Excel. So I don't know how else you would do it.
Well, I'm not going to make more assumptions.
So I mean, there's a lot of assumptions there. So
he says Power Query in Excel. He's using Power Query in Excel.
Well, then you're not
Ignore
doing
Power
direct
BI
query. Also, if
terminology.
you're using ODBC, you're not doing direct query. And if you're in Excel, you're also not doing direct query. So
Internal SQL DB loading tables to Excel.
loading tables into Excel. Okay, so we're doing
he's
Power
in
Pivot.
Excel.
We're doing Power
Yeah,
Query, and
yeah.
we're trying to import into Excel. If that's going slow, I mean, we need to look at the. So, from a strict
source.
Power BI or Power Query perspective, then look, appends and merges. I said this in one of the data flow videos that I did, where like that's slow. It depends, right? Alex was saying that he was telling me that he's like, look. We're doing, sometimes it can be fast. It can do folding. But yes, Alex, 100%. Like if it's SQL Server, why aren't we using the SQL connector? Why are we using ODBC?
Yeah.
So that's the
Why
first
are we
thing.
using ODBC?
But the other thing, again, can we push it?
$2.
Yeah. If it's internal SQL and you've got access to that, do all that stuff in SQL. Why are we doing it in Power Query? I don't understand. So, all right. So Mark Walter, thank you for the super chat. Very much appreciated. We are over time, but Christian sent in a question as well. Let's see if that's in the queue.
That's a tough
It's
one.
not.
That's a tough one, man.
So hang on, I gotta
It's
find
there.
it.
I'm looking at it.
No, it's in the chat. It's not in the queue.
It's right there. I'm looking at it. It's on my screen.
It's not
right
in the
here.
queue. It's not in the queue. Hang on. All right, here we go. Sorry, Chatmaster C had to step away. All right, any hint on working with parent-child hierarchies with child having multiple parents on different structures? Request is to switch the aggregation structure. Go, Patrick.
No, I mean, Christian, I don't know how you would switch it. That's the challenge. And I don't know how you would change from Adam's the parent to Patrick's the parent by using the slicer selection. I have no idea, or any type of selection. I don't know how you would change, because that's basically, it's going to show both. It's going to show you under both parents,
Yeah.
which could be kind of messy. Don't know how you would just.
Can you potentially store multiple like separate hierarchies, and then pick that hierarchy to use for the given visual?
One for this parent, but how
Maybe
do
you
I
could
know,
even use
what if I have four
perspectives?
parents? I don't know. Man.
I don't know. Like those are the things I'm thinking of, like, because you're not going to be able to just dynamically change the hierarchy, like you said. So, yeah. Oh, Will said, sounds like a job for report parameters.
Yeah.
Maybe. Dynamic M parameters. Maybe.
It's just handling those relationships, because it's like, I don't know.
Yep. I agree. All right. Well,
I'm still
Christian,
stuck on the other question, though.
I know.
You
I know. Christian, I don't know if that helped you at all, but yeah, that's going to be tough to do on the fly. So you'll have to be a little creative about that. So.
This is a modeling thing.
Yep.
I think this will be a modeling thing, and not.
Oh, he said he solved it with user relationship, and yeah. So that's what I said, like changing the relationship status, and yeah, but it's a modeling thing. So you're handling that from a model perspective. So cool.
Well, we did talk about this, and we did talk about this last week.
Yeah.
Did we
All
talk
right,
about
everyone.
this? I don't remember.
All right, we are over time. So good discussion, great questions. That was fun, and I learned a few things. Look at that. Good deal. I learned
These
what
last
I
two broke
learned
me.
about plus VE and minus VE. And now Patrick's
I'm
gonna wallow
broken.
in. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for hanging out with us this Saturday. We will be back next Saturday for another great live stream. So we'll see everybody next week. Have a great rest of your weekend.
So this is how we end up.